Well, good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing? That was a little better than Monday, but not much. Well, it's quite an honor to be here and a pleasure to see everyone here. So, again, thank you for being here on the third day of the 2024 Aviation Forum. We've got more action for you today and the rest of the week, and we'll kick day 3 off as right now. Today we're filled with presentations, great ones here on this main stage, technical papers, flight lab sessions across the meeting rooms and around the venue, and with several insightful talks at the hub in the Expo Center. But first, back to the theme of the Olympics of Aerospace, let's get some awards handed out to some great people. We have 3 exceptional people today, and I'd like to ask Brett Stanford, Multidisciplinary Design Optimization Technical Committee Awards Chair, and David Maroney, Director of the Aircraft Technology Integration and Operations Group, to join me on stage for the award presentations. Good morning, guys. Good morning. Everybody happy? We are. Okay, good. This is what happens when you get the pinch hitter in the morning. So in 1993, the AIAA Multidisciplinary Design Optimization Award was established, and it's meant to recognize an individual for outstanding contributions to the development and/or application of techniques of multidisciplinary design optimization in the context of aerospace engineering. The 2024 AIAA Multidisciplinary Design Optimization Award is presented to Kumar Bhatia, Boeing Senior Technical Fellow, Boeing Company, and he's retired. The award citation reads, "For pioneering the use of multidisciplinary design optimization in transport aircraft and developing a rapid approach for aircraft MDO employing appropriate fidelity analyses." Congratulations, Kumar. Another round of applause for Kumar and his great work. The 2024 AIAA Aircraft Design Award is presented to an individual or team for an original concept or career contributions leading to a significant advancement in aircraft design or design technology. The 2024 AIAA Aircraft Design Award is presented to Paul Fontenrose, Vice President Engineering, Northrop Grumman Aeronautic Systems. The award citation reads, "For the design of the next evolution of the U.S. Air Force strategic bomber fleet and the world's first 6th generation aircraft to reach the skies." Congratulations, Paul. And one more round of applause for Paul. Our final awardee today could not join us today. The 2024 AIAA Piper General Aviation Award recognizes outstanding contributions leading to the advancement of general aviation by an individual or group. The 2024 AIAA Piper General Aviation Award goes to Noel Dirksen, and the award citation reads, "For contributions to general aviation safety and ease of use, including the first certified envelope protection system and the first certified autonomous emergency landing system in general aviation." We send our congratulations to Noel on this honor, and he's at Oshkosh, so you know he's having fun. So let's round of applause for Noel. So now let me switch over to introducing our plenary speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce Ravi Chaudhry, Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Energy, Installations, and Environment, and actually a close friend and colleague for many years. Dr. Chaudhry is responsible for the formulation, review, and execution of plans, policies, programs, and budgets to meet the Air Force energy, installations, environment, safety, and occupational health objectives. He is a lifetime member and an associate fellow of AIAA. Dr. Chaudhry most recently served as the acting Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Energy. Prior to this role, he served as the Director of Advanced Programs and Innovation Office and Innovation, Office of Commercial Space Transportation at the FAA. He provided technical leadership and oversight for the commercial space industry to include research and development activities to support Department of Transportation and White House National Space Council initiatives. Dr. Chowdhury commissioned in the Air Force in 1993 upon graduation from the Air Force Academy, completed 21 years of service in a variety of command, flying, engineering, and senior staff assignments at the Air Force. Today, he will give us a talk entitled Air and Space Power in a Decade of Consequence, Accelerating Change in an Era of Great Power Competition. When he has concluded his remarks, we'll come back and moderate and take questions from the audience. Please join me in welcoming Ravi Chowdhury. Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. All right, well, good morning, everybody. How's it going today? Good? Did everybody get enough coffee? I hope so. So, I want to start this off by saying I really hope you're having an informative and professionally enriching week here at Aviation 2024. Dan, thank you for that really kind intro. It truly is an honor to be here today. I have to say, among the events that I've attended since my confirmation by the Senate, I've been looking forward to this one the most. Thank you, Dan. Jim Sherman, where are you at? Thank you very much for having me here today. It's an honor to be here, and the entire AIAA team for a great welcome to all of us really here in Las Vegas. And having been a session chair and panelist in previous aviation gatherings, honestly, I really mean this, I feel like it's a bit of a homecoming. You see, when people ask me about my profession, I never answer assistant secretary. I never answer executive or anything else. I'm always proud to answer, and I say this with fervor, that I'm an aerospace professional. A pilot, an aerospace engineer, but most importantly, someone who appreciates this community. No, this aerospace community, this AIAA family, and what we provide the nation. In fact, a few years ago, I went off the deep end and crossed over to the dark side, if you could say, and took on a doctoral degree in liberal arts from Georgetown. Yeah, I know my stomach is turning too a little bit. But I know you'd appreciate this thought experiment. Try dropping an engineer into a course called Love, Death, and God. All bets are off. Heads are exploding, dogs and cats living together, and the like. It's just a tough environment for an engineer to grow in. But here's the deal. I never contemplated what the implications would be until I got to the very end of the program. In fact, one of my professors asked me why I was switching from engineering and moving to the liberal arts field. You know, it was peculiar, but I actually reject the notion that I was leaving a discipline. Rather, building a bridge to another, a more fulsome understanding of the forces that shape our world. So I blurted it out. I'm choosing that path not because I want to stop being an engineer. I chose that path because I wanted to become a better engineer. Think about that. You see, that's the intellectual space where the conundrum of understanding the seams that emerge between individual disciplines and the perils of remaining stovepiped into a single one. And we're seeing it play out nearly every day in a complex world. And that sets up my topic for today, confronting global challenges. And today I'd like to share two global challenges, just two. Sorry, Jim, I can only do two today. But I believe these are relevant to the role each of us play in the aerospace profession. The first challenge is one that my boss, Secretary Kendall, talks about quite a bit. But I'll start out by stating that the need for American leadership is never as great as it is today. We find ourselves in the midst of a decade of real consequence, a great power competition in which the geopolitical remnants of the global pandemic are leaving uncertainties in the vision of a world that is free, open, prosperous, and secure. Even before the pandemic, the economic growth of China has taken on a more bellicose form. The PRC harbors intentions and a growing capacity to reshape the international order for its benefit. Its tremendous economic growth has been accompanied with an equally military buildup, one that seeks strategic parity, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region. Take a look at this illustration from The Economist. Here you can see the kind of reach that the PRC has developed with an all-new rocket force, well beyond what we term the second island chain. Added to this, Russia's unprovoked aggression in Ukraine has shattered peace in Europe and impacted stability around the globe. Our national security strategy states it plainly. The forces of autocracy are working aggressively to undermine democratic values and replace it with the trade of repression and coercion. And I can tell you that this is a global challenge that isn't going away in the near term. And the practice of abstaining it takes us down an even greater perilous path. But I want to turn to another global challenge, one shared by all of the nations of the world, one that we can all find commonality in. The effect of global climate change has placed us in a crucial decade, one in which action cannot be deferred. Increasing temperatures, some of the hottest on record, changing precipitation patterns, rising sea levels, and more are resulting in frequent extreme weather events that are shaping the geostrategic landscape. And while it's pretty easy to derive a natural imperative from the rise of autocracy in the world, the connection to climate change isn't often discussed. So allow me to provide some clarity. You need not look further than Tyndall Air Force Base, nearly destroyed by Hurricane Michael in 2018, to understand that this is a challenge impacting Air Force operations. The rebuild of that installation has cost the department over $5 billion in damage repairs. Wildfires in the western U.S. have taken our National Guard off their normal training schedules, impacting our readiness levels. The melting of permafrost at our Arctic installations is crumbling our runways and damaging our early warning radar capabilities. Now, is there a link between these two global challenges? If you have any doubts, look back to Napoleon Bonaparte and his 1812 retreat from Moscow. He lost well over half of his 400,000 plus soldiers in the Russian campaign, primarily due to critical weather conditions. The upshot of this is that challenges taken together speak to the values we hold dear. So while we continue to ensure the world is more secure, we must also ensure we make it a world worth securing for future generations. And the men and women in this room must be ready to deliver on these challenges, as you always have. So what does all this mean to the AIAA community? And how do we equip ourselves to confront these global challenges? Stated simply is that the value you already provide the nation and our leaders during this decade of consequence is without question. And I really mean that. I'd like to share a little bit about what that is doing and allowing us to adjust to in the Department of the Air Force to address these challenges. I'll start with the challenges in the Indo-Pacific. And that leads to one incontrovertible fact. You saw the map. The Indo-Pacific is a vast area. That makes the tyranny of distance a very real planning factor for all of us engineers, especially when it comes to fuel. When you take a look at Russia's attempts to weaponize operational energy, that's fuel, in Europe, or any other energy source for that matter, it brings out an imperative to conserve as much fuel as we can and get as efficient as we can. Now, as a pilot, flying missions into Afghanistan, I made the observation on one particular mission that I could drain an entire fuel supply for a forward operating base in one single stop. So that means that if there are A-10s flying missions out of that location, say we had 5 sorties in support of our ground troops, they wouldn't be able to do that. They'd be out of fuel. So in Afghanistan, how do we solve that? We solve that by putting intermediate stops in and around the theater so that we wouldn't place fuel burdens on forward operating bases. I mean, that was a natural reaction. Intermediate stops were very, very effective in doing that. The problem in the Pacific is that there are no intermediate stops. It's all water for as far as the eye can see. So the next best thing we can do is to teach ourselves to be more efficient with our fuel resources. And that goes right down to the design factors in the aircraft that we're innovating with. So we've developed new and innovative ways today to get the most mission out of every gallon of fuel we expend. And that's where aerospace innovation comes in. Working with our aircraft engineering directorates in our program offices in the Air Force, we've developed new microvanes that, when fastened to the side of our aircraft, deliver millions and millions of gallons of fuels of savings. Check it out. See those things? Those are actually 3D printed microvanes fastened on the side of the aircraft, and they're going to deliver savings on the order of millions. That's innovation that our community provides. We're doing that on C-17 aircraft for starters and moving on to C-130 aircraft. By the way, that brings you, the taxpayer, return on investment in 15 months. So for the investment, we're getting a lot. And we're also reducing greenhouse gas emissions. You see that link between the two? We've also developed small fairings that can be placed at strategic locations across our aircraft, all over the aircraft body. If you believe this, by merely shifting the angle of our wiper blades, I know many people believe this in this room, but some people don't outside of our community. You can get even more fuel savings just by reorienting your wiper blades vertically. We're planning to put new winglets on KC-135 tanker aircraft. Imagine that. Aircraft developed in the 1950s. Increasing our engine wash frequency. Rigging our wing flaps a little better, a little more tightly to the wing itself. Coating compressor blades with all new materials that are designed to last longer. Think about all these things, these small innovations. They all add up. But they add up to the work each and every one of you do every day. All told, we are targeting tens of millions of gallons in annual fuel savings. But we're not stopping there. In addition to retrofitting our existing aircraft, we're also busy developing transformational capabilities that will shape the future of air transportation. Last year, I joined Secretary Kendall in announcing award of the first full-scale blended wing body prototype program to Jet Zero. Check it out. Who here has seen that picture? Who hasn't? Good. Pretty nifty, isn't it? Working with NASA, Georgia Tech, Faye, where are you at? We'll need you for Q&A, by the way. I'll need your help on that. And others, we're on track to deliver this technology with the potential to reduce fuel consumption by over 30%. Think about that. And we're scheduled to fly this prototype in 2027. You see, global challenges can prove to be vexing, but they can also be catalysts for great change. In my view, the cumulative effects of the work we're doing would prove to be the margin of victory, whether you're in competition, crisis, or conflict. And while it's easier to see that this contributes to making a world that's more secure, I'm going to say it again. We have a responsibility as a democratic nation to ensure we make it a world worth securing for future generations. That's who we are. In the future, the diffusion of innovations like this will become a larger factor as we address global challenges. But the key point I want you to take away from this is that the global challenges I outlined aren't mutually exclusive. But then again, neither are the domains in which aerospace professionals practice our craft in. I would say that one challenge that we face together in this community as engineers is that our technology is no longer limited to a single domain, air or space. And we're seeing that play out as the seam between air and space technologies gets closer and closer together. So in my opinion, we need to ensure that corporate seams don't emerge in parallel between communities that are designing these technologies. We've got to do a better job of integrating. And one of the coolest examples is, if you take a look at aviation, look at the sponsors. Look what you're wearing around your neck, Blue Origin. That's a sign that we're cutting into that seam. And that's what we do in the aerospace community. And I want to do it more. In the future, we all understand that air and space systems will continue to operate in a system of systems together. And that system, to include the infrastructure, will be subject to the threats posed by adversaries who are willing to use both kinetic and non-kinetic means. And I'm talking about cyber, to disrupt, slow down, or render inoperable the systems that deliver capabilities. And it includes using AI. As someone who's served in both the space and air-breathing realm, I would have to say that this is something we've got to come together on and watch more closely. But more importantly, act upon it in our engineering directorates, in our startups, in our boardrooms, at senior levels of government, across the board. The good news is that our next generation gets it. So while visiting a variety of aerospace programs during my daughter's college search, my daughter was posed with a question in one of her departments of whether she's going to choose the aircraft track or the space track in her curriculum. And that's what everybody was coaching her. But she didn't see it that way. She instantly called it out as a false choice between one or the other. So in her words, she'd like to pursue both. She needs an aptitude for both. But most importantly, she has an appreciation for closing the seams between the two. And I'm not talking about the technology piece, because we've got that part down. We're good at that. I'm talking about changing the mindset. The corporate culture that still believes that Bernoulli and Kepler should dine at separate tables. Where's Lena? Is Lena here today? Did she make it? Well, anyways, so Lena, I met in during our mentoring session yesterday. She's working this problem aggressively. She's a graduate of Yale, and she's working on regulatory challenges in space policy. And that's going to include both the air and space domain. She's very conscious of this challenge and wants to work on it. And I encourage us to take that lesson from her. By the way, my daughter chose to go to Georgia Tech. Any rambling wrecks in the room? Shout out, way to go, awesome. So I'll end with one final thought. Through all of this, we can't forget the underlying responsibility to maintain the ethics of engineering in our profession. You see, confronting global challenges in such a period of rapid technological change, there's going to be risks. We all have to be ready to understand not only what we're designing, but why. And then inform our nation's leaders in such a way that they make the right decisions. In this world of startups, venture-backed technology, you're going to be confronted with whether a given technological advancement is truly viable and ready, and whether the maturity of that capability is masked by investor confidence And I can tell you, Bernoulli will only take you so far. Bernoulli will help you determine if you can do it, but I can tell you that it's going to take Aristotle, Galileo, Ramanujan, or even your oath to the Constitution that points the way. You see, that's why I'm proud to be part of the AIAA family. A legacy of truth-telling by corporate interests, data-driven solutions, and an apolitical approach to solving problems to give our nation the best advice at the time. And I'm telling you, I really mean this. It makes me proud to be part of AIAA. From our congressional visits day to technical committees, Ascend and beyond, we're always here guiding the nation through our toughest global challenges. In that respect, I wish you all the best in your endeavors as aerospace professionals. The good, the bad, the profundity of failure, but a sense of purpose and meaning when a new boundary is broken, and that sense of accomplishment that I know many of you have felt at least once in your career, from vision to velocity. Once again, thanks for all you do, and may God continue to bless our men and women in uniform and all of our dedicated professionals in the aerospace field. Thanks.
Morning, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet.
All right. All right, good morning, everybody. My name is David Gonzalez. I'm with the Office of Naval Research, and I will have the honor this morning to be the moderator for all of your Q&A with Dr. Chowdhury. So first of all, I personally would like to thank you, Dr. Chowdhury, for the great presentation. And for all of you in the audience, please feel free to go over to our website and please introduce your questions, and we'll be selecting as we go. So if you don't mind, Dr.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. I'll lob an easy one in your direction, sir.
I'll take an easy one.
But operational energy obviously is a big important part of the joint services operating. So we as a Navy as well have a vested interest in ensuring that we are able to operate in the tyranny of great distance and things of that nature. So from your perspective, sir, what are ways that we could potentially maximize our joint service interactions and improve how we tackle difficult operational energy problems?
That's an awesome question, and I have great news, really great news to share on that front. I talk with my counterpart regularly on this subject. Assistant Secretary Berger. She has an operational energy team. And the cool thing is coming from that organization where we stood up an energy office, it's really fun to do that there and then come to the Air Force side and see an Air Force team that is just really kicking some serious butt and taking them to the next level is something that I've been staying focused on. But I think the lessons learned, and I'll share an example. There was a particular policy that allows organizations that save energy and actively save energy to take a draw from the National Treasury. It's a program that incentivizes us to be more efficient, and the Navy was doing it. And so I was like, wow, can we do it? But we actually had some policy blocks on the Air Force side and in terms of interpretation. So I came to the Air Force team. I'm like, let's get together and let's work this really aggressively. And so through understanding how the Navy addressed that issue, we applied the same thing. And now I'm super excited to share that we're on our way to drawing large savings from our Treasury, dollars that typically weren't spent, but now are going to go towards saving taxpayer dollars every single day. So it's really fun. And that's just one example of how we're driving approaches that are jointly done so that we get the lessons going forward together.
Fantastic. I will say on a personal level, I think we always view the Air Force as a gold standard for operational energy. So you are doing a fantastic job.
Same to you, man. Don't leave me hanging now. Don't leave me hanging. Right? Awesome.
But kind of on a related question to the first one, is there a plan to cooperate with allied countries to overcome global challenges in the operational energy realm and otherwise?
That's great. The answer is yes. So we've been partnering with the service chiefs of other nations or allied nations to put together a efficiency operational energy agenda that is both effective and one that we can come together on. In fact, we just hosted the Royal Singaporean Air Force. They came to us and we share our climate action plans. This is where our operational energy efficiency metrics are residing currently, and we share that info with them. And we came together and developed a list of things that they can do right now, today, to save flying at better altitudes, making sure that you taxi with 2 engines versus using all 4 engines to taxi. So all those things you can do really, really simply to be more effective. Changing your engine watch schedules can have a fuel reduction. All those things, and many of these things are understood by the air carriers. And so we're drawing those lessons, and coming to this job, I was like, wow, air carriers have been doing this for years and years and years because they're worried about the bottom line. We've got to do the same. And that's going to have a huge impact for us going forward. So coming together with nations is something that we've done. In fact, just this last year, I had the opportunity to go to COP28, which was pretty cool to have a Department of Defense delegation represented at state at COP28. And so Secretary Kerry stated it plainly at COP28. You can't have a discussion on climate without a discussion on the security implications of that as well. And so that brought it to the forefront. But everything we're doing when it comes to blended wing body, drag reduction activities, those are all things that we want to share with other nations. So it's exciting, and we're going to go to COP29 again this year and bring that same message.
Fantastic. So microvanes were invented, say, roughly 15 years ago. Why do you think, in your opinion, it might have taken this long for them to actually get integrated into our current aircraft?
See, I think about that a lot. I really think about that a lot. Sometimes it's culture. Like I actually talked, and this was. I don't want to knock the Navy, but this was a Nav Air individual who says we don't like these bumps on our aircraft. We just don't. I'm like, okay, well. If it makes an aerodynamic difference, we ought to be doing it, right? And so we actually had that resistance, and that's why I mentioned the term diffusion of innovation in my presentation, because diffusion of innovation doesn't always involve the technology. A lot of times the data is out there for us to solve problems. It's that corporate culture, it's that corporate mindset that we've got to come together on and have those engaging discussions. So I'm lucky to have a team with Deputy Assistant Secretary Bert Guerrero. I see from a member of my team, Dan Pike, who's leading this champion. You got to have a team of go-getters that are out there engaging the community and talking across disciplines to ensure that we can advance these technologies. So I credit that to our team, and that included engaging our engineering directorates to let them know that these are real savings that can come to our military, and they come back to us. And once you complete that, and so we're having our initial rounds of operational energy conferences where we're engaging directly with our engineering directorates so that they understand the value proposition of doing this stuff. The cool thing is our secretary's like, okay, this pays for itself in 13 months, let's do it. And so off we go.
Yep, fantastic. Kind of pulling the thread on that. There's a lot to do, kind of taking the AIAA community in mind. All of the great ideas that at the engineering level and research level are incredibly important seedlings to achieving all of these benefits and performance improvements that we rely upon so much. So in your estimation, how much are we doing enough as a joint service, say Air Force, Navy, reaching out to these community of individuals and researchers to kind of pull all of those great ideas into our portfolios, for example?
That's a superb question. I'll be a little lengthy with it because I'm really passionate about this. So when I was a junior at the Air Force Academy, we did a drag reduction project that I submitted to a regional paper competition, my partner and I, and it was to put end plates on the tips of our wings, much like winglets, but these were different shapes, and we're studying the impact of drag reduction on these shapes, and we did flow visualization and profile drag, lift drag ratios, and the entire thing. But anyways, we put together the paper. We went to it was at Colorado State University, and we did a presentation. Back then, we did presentations on the clear slides and a projector. And of course, I spilled water on mine before the presentation. And while I did the presentation, you could see the grass, but you could see little bubbles on the thing from the water. I tell you the story because looking back on 30 years in being with the AIAA community, that seedling matters. And I had the opportunity, I had the great pleasure of hosting Air Force Academy cadets at our office at the Pentagon, and they spent a number of weeks studying the impact of temperature changes on payload, range, and capability of our tanker aircraft. I mean, that's a critical problem that we're addressing. I shared that with you. I shared the map because it really points to the challenges we're facing. And we have junior aerospace engineering students working on these problems, no different than what goes on at AIAA. And I pressed upon them the fact that 30 years ago, I had the chance to do a paper on this, and not until I was confirmed as Assistant Secretary that we could put some real money down to get these things done. And it was all because of that seedling, you said it best, that seedling of ideas, the area in which we come together to discuss these ideas, energize each other, bring them to the table, and now bring senior leaders to the point where they can understand what we're doing. So that factory, that innovation factory is right here and exists with all of us. So bringing our next generation forward to do these things is something that's a passion of mine, and I want all of us to really think about that as we go through aviation.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. So with that in mind, how do you think the U.S. Air Force can balance environmental impact, say, with strategic imperatives? It has been made, it's like, the environment tends to lose in war, but it's great to have all of these initiatives to be able to ensure that we are as efficient as possible in executing what our mission is.
Yep. The answer is do our best. And I think whoever made that question, it's an astute observation that, yes, the environment loses in war. And I'll be the first to tell you that you do see the amount of environmental damage that occurs in times of war. One that comes to mind is in the first Gulf War, you saw the oil wells that were lit on fire, that just miles and miles of pollution that were contributed. But it's not your adversary; it's always you. It's your own military operation. So as the largest consumer of fuel in the U.S. government, I take it upon myself to bring that knowledge to the forefront, that we've got to reduce as much as we can. And there's a narrative out there that says it's an either-or proposition, but I'm here to tell you that it's not. That was the point of my presentation, to say that these two global challenges are not mutually exclusive. We have to find commonality across the board to address. Now, the Air Force in the past 3 years has reduced the amount of fuel consumption by roughly 200 million gallons. I mean, think about that. That's a lot of fuel. But I'm here to tell you that it's absolutely critical that we do this going forward, because we're not going to give up an ounce of operational capability. We're going to make sure that we maintain or increase our operational capability, but we also have a responsibility to make sure that we're leading with our values, those democratic values that say, hey, listen, we want to make sure that the future is better for future generations. And so we've got to make sure that we keep both of those things in context. And I want folks to really take away from this discussion that these two ideas are not mutually exclusive. We can accomplish our mission requirements and at the same time be good stewards of the environment in which we want to ensure we protect.
Well said, sir. Fantastic comments. Also, kind of shifting gears, but not quite, but kind of a combination here of a couple of questions that were posed. But in your mind, what kind of sustainability technologies do you see being potentially employed and or being developed at this point in time with regards to potentially transitioning to, say, 6th generation fighters, be it aerodynamic efficiencies like you've discussed, or within propulsion systems developments and such?
So I think we're looking at a variety of areas in which we want to ensure we stay on the leading edge. And engine technology is something that we've got to stay focused on. And our operational team stays in close touch with industry to understand how far we can get, what kind of gains we can get in efficiency and sustainability in our capabilities. That doesn't mean fuel consumption all the time. A lot of times it means longevity. If you're using systems that don't require a tremendous amount of maintenance, that allows you to reduce your carbon footprint as well, too. We're looking for small innovations, too. We're looking for robotic electric tow bars and towing vehicles as opposed to diesel-generated tugs. All these things come together to make a more sustainable approach to solving problems. But with the blended wing body, we're using that wing body as a bridge to the potential for hydrogen in the future. And so while it feels a little long off right now, we've still got to set the seeds for our design parameters today and make sure they're open and doesn't lock us out to opportunities in the future. And so Faye has been leading on the leading edge of that to make sure that blended wing body has the opportunity. The current blended wing body is going to use a traditional engine, but we're leaving the door open to ensure that hydrogen technology can be integrated when and if it's ready.
Fantastic. Yeah. And you mentioned the blended wing body. Right now, notionally, with conventional propulsion systems, what do you see the benefits, or how much efficiency do you foresee such a system being able to provide the U.S. Air Force?
Well, right now the data is projecting somewhere around 30%, but we know that there's a lot of proofing to that that needs to be done. Our initial designs show that as a real possibility, so that's why we're proceeding with it. But ultimately, talk is cheap, so we're going to need to develop the prototype, see what kind of gains it gets, and again, that comes down to what I was talking about, truth-telling. We've got to let the data show what type of capability we're moving forward with and proof it out. And ultimately, when that aircraft flies and we get all the data, there is going to be some truth-telling involved, because there's going to be a lot of back and forth of oh, you said it was going to be 30%, oh, that type of stuff. But we've got to be ready to make sure that as engineers, we tell the right story of what capability we're putting forward. Who knows? We're moving the technology forward. There may be other benefits that come out of it that we may not know about. So that's the thing with diffusion of innovation. Bringing the right communities together, bringing the right idea generation around to keep things moving forward.
Fantastic. So, with regards to sustainable aviation fuels, they've been progressing, been increasing in use. But what do you foresee, or what do you see are some of the basic barriers towards scaling that into higher production levels and kind of getting us to a carbon neutral sort of goals in the future?
It's simple: cost. Right now, the cost factor, I think, needs to come down, but that doesn't mean that you don't hedge a little bit. And so we're watching this in the Air Force very, very closely to make sure that as the price comes down, but we know that feedstock is a major, major challenge when it comes to this, as well as the infrastructure required to maintain system of alternative fuels. We know that other folks are doing it, so as the price continues to come down, the Air Force is going to make some decisions. Now, all of our bulk fuel purchasing occurs at the Defense Logistics Agency. So they have experts that are looking at the potential list to get the right price point, to the point that it's of best benefit to the taxpayer. So right now, I don't see that happening, but think about it. If we become in a future environment and get placed in the position where adversaries are constraining our fuel capabilities, we may need it. So we've got to be watching it closely and make that step when and if it's ready for the taxpayer.
Awesome. And from your perspective, in your position within the operational energy world, how do you think the DoD is really establishing or willing to make long-term commitments to the fuel efficiency or emission goals that we might want to reach to, or that we believe should be adequate goals for us to achieve as a nation?
Well, I think you just look at what our Deputy Secretary of Defense says regularly about how we've got to remain on the leading edge when it comes to addressing both the operational realities of operational energy and what it provides the Department of Defense, as well as the responsibility we have to ensuring that we take care of our responsibilities in greenhouse gas emissions that are really the largest across the federal government. So that's straight from our senior leadership, and our secretary feels the same way. Both of those leaders have put out climate action plans that make this a priority. But again, I want to emphasize that it's an operational priority, not necessarily a purely climate priority. We have a responsibility to do right, but our focus is ensuring that we have the agility to execute operations in a manner that allows us to deter our adversaries and be decisive when and if we're called.
Great answer, sir. This one's near and dear to my heart and kind of related to our first question, but can you briefly describe an interoperable Air Force and Navy operational energy success story?
Well, we just talked about that policy decision. It's actually called the 2912 program. It's an option in our laws that allows us to draw from the Treasury savings that allow us to invest in more savings and get us incentivized towards more of those things. But I'm trying to think of one that it doesn't involve the Air Force beating Navy in football in the fall. But ultimately, having complementary capabilities, like one of the things that the Navy is doing really, really well at is battery technology. And so they're staying focused on battery technologies. We are moving in a direction of advancing our drag reduction activities. And so we find ourselves in a place that complementary activities, while we don't have to be working on the same things at the same time, being complementary in the problems that we solve is going to bring big benefit across the board, across the joint world. Yep. So to me, if you think about one thing we're working together, it's kind of being complementary. You work on that, we work on this, and derive the benefits of both, right?
Yep, on kind of pulling the thread on that, sir, at least from our perspective in the Navy, drag reduction technologies are a fantastic collaboration activity that I've been a part of as well, so I'm very appreciative of all the Air Force is doing.
That's
so
cool.
We're always complementing that research from the perspective of we as a Navy operate totally differently than the Air Force, but everything that the Air Force is doing is incredibly relevant to all of what we do as a nation. So finding those niche areas with regards to that the Air Force may not necessarily have to worry about this or that. So finding those spots where we can fill in that gap. So you guys are doing phenomenal with regards to proving out all the efficiencies that are possible. Now we are kind of tackling the problem of how do we make those improvements, for example, relevant in our environment within the naval construct. So it's been a fantastic collaboration. It's all I can say about that, and I'm really excited to continue working with the Air Force on those.
That's great stuff. I want to bring up one program. I believe the Navy has a stern flap program, which you put stern flaps at the bottom of a boat, and it's very simple. You get the hydrodynamic benefits of it as well too. It keeps the nose closer to the waves and allows you to get fuel savings out of that. So I always thought that was one of the more intriguing programs because it's not very different. I mean, fluid's a fluid. We all know that here, and so working on that is something that I think is really, really awesome.
All right. I think we're pretty close to completing this Q&A. Thank you very much to all of the community for posting your questions. Apologies we couldn't get through all of them, a number of phenomenal questions posed. Really enjoy and appreciate all of the dialogue here, Dr. Chowdhury. So before we conclude, I definitely wanted to, on behalf of AIAA, provide you with this AIAA aviation coin. So thank you very much for your participation, sir.
Thank you so much. It's very, very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before you do that, let me give one right back at you. So on behalf of the Secretary of the Air Force, thank you for moderating a very kind session. I'm very happy that you did that. And so thank you for everything you do, and most importantly, everything everyone here does at AIAA. So awesome.
Fantastic. Stuff. Thank you very much, sir.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Very cool.
All right. Again, we're incredibly appreciative to have Dr. Chowdhury here talking to us. Thank you all for attending this morning's keynote session. Right now, we would love for you to continue enjoying the conference, of course, providing all of the great information and knowledge, really, which is what AIAA is so phenomenal for. So please, feel free to visit the expo anytime today and hear several more sessions at the hub. You won't want to miss a unique session today. Because the AIAA Aviation Forum and Ascend are going on beside each other, as you may have noticed. We will all get the chance to hear from NASA Chief Technologist A.C. Charania and the 10 NASA Chief Technologists discussing technology maturation and infusion. And that session is going to take place at 3:30 on this stage as well. And then finally, join us tonight for the Aero and Space reception in the Expo Hall with all attendees and speakers from Aviation and Ascend there. So it's a perfect opportunity to network, share insights, and maintain the momentum of this fantastic week in collaboration with these two conferences. So thank you very much for your participation in this session, and have a great rest of your day. And once again, can we say thank you to Dr. Chowdhury?
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you very much. And again, enjoy your day.